The story of Destiny 2 is built upon the foundation of interesting and unique characters. Characters that were introduced all the way back in Destiny 1 in late 2014 are still highly relevant and still in the spotlight of the lore almost 10 years later. We all know about the stories of the Drifter and his dark past. We know about Cage 6 and the Vanguard Dare. But what about the lesser known Guardians that maybe most lore enthusiasts overlook or don't even pay attention to? How many of you know about the Carl lore, or the Jean lore, or even the Gimbal lore? And yes, those are actual Guardian names that exist within the Destiny story. Over the past few weeks, I've been looking through different lore entries and I've uncovered 25 interesting Guardians that aren't too well known within the Destiny community. Over the next few months, I am going to be telling the stories of these lesser known Guardians, with this being the first of a multi-video series. Lita. Hunters have always been hated in PvP by the player base. Be it their quicker movement, their invisibility, or their overall better drip, PvP players have always found a way to place the blame for their mid-minus skills on Hunters. But one Hunter got to live out the fantasy shared by many Titan and Warlock players. Lita made the mistake of thinking this particular Trials of Osiris match was going to be a typical, friendly, competitive game. Frustrating the imposing team with his spam invisibility, he soon found himself the last remaining member of his fire team. Cornered by a hallucinating warlock named Surreal, his life was taken from him with a swift cut from her blade. But she was not done with him yet. Upon being revived by his ghost, she stuck the blade into him again, and again, and again, and again. When his ghost revived him for the 5th time, she used all of her force and stuck her blade straight through his face, impaling him against a wall. On his 6th revival, Lita pleaded and begged for her to stop and let him go. She answered his cries by cutting his arms off one by one and finishing him by slicing the top of his head off. We do not know what happened to poor Lita after this Trials match. Did he ever brave Trials again? Would he use invisibility? I hope one day we hear more about his stories and the aftermath of his torture. Isel Brier. What if your life was a lie? The family you love, the stores you shop, the lakes you swim in, nothing but a highly sophisticated simulation. Would you accept the comfortable fabrication or overcome your mental prison and find a way to escape? What if your escape was another simulation? Would you ever be able to accept reality again? How would you ever know the truth of the world around you? In a desperate battle with the Vex, Isel Brier dove into a Vex simulation in an attempt to hide as they closed in, leaving her partner Galida outside. Crossing the threshold, Isel lost all sense of purpose, forgetting what she was doing and why she was even there. Her memories scattered to the winds. She decided to explore deeper in the chasm that she now found herself in. Soon, she stumbled upon a Vex exhibit with humans locked in cages, displayed as if a zoo. The exposed humans had no knowledge of their prison and lived their lives as normal. Isel walked up to one of the cages, desperately trying to get the prisoners to respond, to get any reaction out of him that was human. She quickly realized that her attempts were futile as they all responded the same way. Imitate, observe, comprehend. Just repeating Vex directives at her as she pleaded with them to realize their situation. Ignoring their robotic behavior, she found a way to free them and led them through the facility, up the chasm, back towards the portal she entered. As she reached the top of the chasm, with joy and relief in her heart, she turned around to let them know they were all going to be okay soon, but nobody was there with her. She was all alone. Her memories flooded back and she let out a scream as she realized she was the one that was trapped. She yelled and shouted for Gala to pull her out of the simulation, but there was no response. Was the zoo ever real? Did she actually help anyone? Or was the simulation built just for her? A way to study human drive to save those that can't save themselves. We may never know, as no one has ever heard from her again. Let's talk about Brier. A pile of dead bodies is not a foreign concept to any Lightbearer, but not knowing why is. Did the whispers compel the Lightbearer to paint the trees with their blood? Was the shadows following him? Where did that horrible laugh come from? What would you do if the evil was coming not from your surroundings, but from inside you? This is the horror a titan named Brier found themselves in. Blood dripping down the bark of several trees in the forest. Between the trees, whispers and shadows followed him as he ran. The shadows found him, clawed at him, letting out an unholy laugh as it slid inside his body. Brier changed that day. He was once a hero titan, savior of many, but now he felt nothing. Just a deep longing to fill the inescapable emptiness inside him. Brier killed again and again and again. No matter how much his enemies begged and pleaded for mercy, he never let them walk away. The twisted smile on his face and the horrific laughter coming from inside him deepened with each kill. Brier looked down at the blood on his hands, watched it drip off, and saw the face of the shadow inside him. And all he could do was scream. As the whispers grew louder, not allowing him to even sleep, he let out a rage only a titan could and destroyed his entire house with his fiery hammer. That wasn't enough to stop the whispers, as the shadows watched him in the flickering solar light. A voice called out to him, "You are mine. Bring me more. You will never be free." There was only one thing left for Brier to do to try and escape the cackling whispers inside him. Blood dripped down his knife. Anger shot out at his ghost. He didn't want his eyesight back. He knew that's how the voice was able to use him. No matter how many times he plunged the blade into his own face, his ghost healed him. "Do it," he heard inside him as the ghost begged him to be the great titan he once was. Brier quickly snatched his best friend, and the last bit of light inside of him left when he shattered his ghost with the bloody knife in his hands. With his ghost gone, Brier bandaged over the place where his eyes once were, never being able to see again. The last we heard, Brier was contacted by a mysterious stranger saying he could feel real power once again, and Brier accepted. Even with the removal of his eyes, he was still under the influence of the shadow inside him, the ever hunger of that unholy laughter. Let's talk about Surreal. Not everyone wants to be a guardian. Some view the pressure of the traveler's unknown desires as more of a curse than a blessing. Drifter chose to starve repeatedly instead of allowing his ghost to take his hunger away. Saladin was thankful it was finally over when Gaul locked up the traveler. But none of them tried to take the traveler's potential gift away from others. No one knows the name of the Mercurian Valley where Surreal was first revived. Not even the Vex cared enough to terraform it. Surreal was skeptical of his role as a Lightbearer from the moment he first met his ghost. He had a lot of unanswered questions and didn't like the idea of being a potential puppet of a god that wouldn't relay its message to him. He just knew he didn't want to fight anymore. He was tired of wars, even if he couldn't remember fighting in them. But he knew, even before he was revived, he fought in many wars, and he was tired. The barrel of his gun was never pointed towards himself or his ghost. His pride wouldn't allow it. Surreal eventually made his way to the reef, where he heard tales of the awoken people, hoping they would have the answers for him about the light and the traveler. The moment he set foot on the reef, he grew happier. The distance between him and the traveler was very pleasing. His ghost protested when Surreal dismissed him, telling him he had a path his ghost couldn't follow. No one would ever suffer like he had. He would stop more ignorant people from becoming guardians, save them from the trauma of fighting an endless war for the traveler, and he would get them before they could be revived. He became known as the Ghost Hunter, killer of ghosts who haven't found their partner yet. Years later, his old ghost stumbled upon Surreal and was disgusted by what he saw. Surreal adorned a new set of armor made out of shattered metal and dragged behind him a chain made from dead ghost parts. While his hunts mostly were reef localized, he did find himself an enemy, a ghost protector. His war to rid the universe of unpaired ghosts led him to Australia, where he met Micah 10.